Is my last goodbye, my epitaph for you. False pretense of integrity, you believed your lies were true. And this could be the saddest tale I'll never tell. Evanescently will echo through the halls of hell. It was only just a matter of time. It was just a matter of time. And ye are lost. The countless cost. Each your next victim to malign. It was only just a matter of time.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Episodic discussion podcast where we talk about Marvel Spider-Man 2. So, after all this, we played Spider-Man 1, we played Miles Morales, and we're going to get right into it and introduce our panel. So, I'm the first host up for talking about. I'm Renegade Operative, and I'm going to introduce the first guest that we have here, Brian, Silver Angel. Introduce yourself.
Oh wow. Hi. I'm Brian, aka the Silver Angel, aka the Shining One, aka the Believer. All right, now that that's out of the way. It's been a while since I was on one of these, but hopefully I haven't missed a beat.
Believer, he says, like the Passion of Christ over there. All right.
Hey man.
Next we have Kaneki.
Yo, what's good, people? I hope everyone has their swagger of a black teen energy today.
Oh Jesus Christ! Not that meme. I can't believe that reviewer said that shit, but you know what? It's still super funny. Next we have Justin.
What you wouldn't believe is that I am actually sitting on the ceiling, hung up because this fucking spider had to bite me a couple days ago, and things just went off the rocker since then.
You know, how you feeling with that radioactive sperm going on?
Thankfully 0 deaths so far.
That's not what Mary Jane said in a certain comic, but you know what? We'll believe that. And last but not least, we have Shook.
Hello, hello. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so I'm happy to be back.
Welcome back, welcome back. So we're gonna jump right into it with the first question, and basically it's what were your expectations of Spider-Man 2 after playing the first title and Miles Morales? We'll start off with Justin.
I had quite a number of expectations heading into this because I loved the hell out of the first game, got the platinum on that because I just couldn't help myself. Everything about it just felt so right, like both that and Miles Morales. It felt it was, this opinion was probably beaten to death back then, but it felt like the best experience since like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2 game. Everything felt amazing, from combat to the swinging to the writing to the tone to New York City in general. So when the first teaser came out, like, geez, that was years ago for this one. I was already in hype mode because you had both, but you had the tease of Venom, and it's just like you got it because you had the build up. So I had a lot riding into this, and especially when it was announced that it was going to be strictly for the PS5. Other things aside about this current console generation, at least the power of the console could mean there's so much they could do. And we're going to get into all that definitely later, but I will say, whoo, they definitely fucking did. But I'll say the rest of that for later. But yeah, I had very high expectations.
All right, I'll keep my opinions brief. So I mean, I was very hyped going into this because, to keep it quite simple, I really love the hell out of the first Spider-Man game that Insomniac did, and also being a Spider-Man fan of the original games, like the ones they did with Raimi, Ultimate Spider-Man, and Web of Shadows. I thought those were well done. So when I heard the symbiote was coming back in, I was like, oh shit, this is going to be little bit more serious this time around, dealing with Venom and how serious his sort of symbiosis is around Spider-Man and how that's coordinated with the character. 100%, I was super hyped coming into this, and I will definitely get into it later, but I did think that the game delivered on a lot of areas, and it's a few areas I had issues with, but overall, I would say, did it live up to the hype? I probably would say yes. I think everything that they did in terms of the combat and the whole traversing system and everything that we're going to talk about, it was definitely an enhanced experience going into it. It took me by surprise because I felt like the building blocks of the original Spider-Man title and Miles Morales was setting up for that. And also the SSD helping out with the fast speeds. I think Insomniac testing that out with Ratchet and Clank, A Rift Apart, kind of was showing off and flexing the power of that, and it was really just fast loading. I was just taken back, and I thought it was pretty awesome. So I am going to pass my turn to Shook.
Okay. Oh shit. So I personally was just gonna be, as everybody else, hype as hell for this game. So I didn't really expect much of anything to be too different, which colored me shocked. It was fairly different to where to how the first game played, especially with the gadgets. We had a limited number of them compared to the first game, and the first game had have a ton. And I was a fan of it that they made them into hotkeys instead of just a weapon wheel. I'm not a big fan of the weapon wheel for the first game, so the fact that they made them into the gadgets into hotkeys was probably like one of my favorite parts. Made combat a lot easier, a lot faster, and web slinging was pretty much the same as the first game and Miles Morales. Having having to change between them ever so often was pretty interesting, especially with the fact that you get used to one person's combat and then suddenly change to the other one, and their combat is like almost entirely different with how they move. So I had some difficulties with some of the characters when I had to switch between them, and I got more used to Miles than Peter when it came to combat. And story wise, I think just off the bat, opening up the game with Sandman was pretty epic, and set you up for like what to expect in terms of like high octane action kind of deal with the rest of the game off the bat. So it was pretty interesting. Very much enjoyed the game. I loved it, and yeah, I was pretty much just surprised and very happy for the game to be that good.
All right, Brian, it is your turn. How did you feel about the expectations, the hype going into Marvel Spider-Man 2?
When I first heard about it, I thought, that'd be pretty cool. Because it took me a while to really play and beat Spider-Man 1. But then I started playing it, and then I really got into playing it, and I really enjoyed it. Like, I think I played it for so many days in a row where I normally wouldn't do that with a game unless I really like it. And then when I played Miles, that was one of the earlier PS5 games I got, and I was like, okay, this seems cool. So having Spider-Man 2 on PS5, as was mentioned with the SSD, the power of the console and everything, it made it to where it was much more, dare I say, robust. Not just in terms of how it was developed, how smoothly everything went, the movement felt right. Because I didn't expect for it to turn out as well as it did. I thought it would be just as likable gameplay wise as the first game in Miles Morales, but it was much better than I could have ever hoped.
And is that all you have to say there, Brian?
That's all I can say without getting too wordy.
Okay.
You know
Kaneki,
how I roll.
that's fine. Kaneki, it's your turn. What do you think about the hype going into Spider-Man 2 with that first trailer showing Venom and Craven?
That's all. That's all you need to show for getting people hyped up for Spider-Man 2. Because I think what people really wanted to see is how Venom and the others would work in the Insomniac universe of Spider-Man. My thing is how they're gonna, you know, I'll get to that when we talk about it later on. But the symbiote, that's all they need to show is to get me hype at least, and what to expect from the sequel going down that road.
All right. So the questions are about to get just a lot more intense. We are going to talk about the web swinging, the fast travel and traversing system in Spider-Man 2, how quickly he gets around, and how you feel about it. First, we'll start with Inferno.
Uh, I didn't think they could do it any better than before, but they legit just straight up said, "Hold my fucking beer." Never. It takes a lot to be incredibly satisfying with a big world like this, because they give a lot of New York to traverse this time around. It's like 2 big whole freaking islands, and as someone who has lived in the city before, oh my god, I wish I could have fucking done this shit in the city. Are you kidding me? So the web swinging is literally just the same. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Fucking love it. I love when they do that. And all the web wings, I fucking love that shit with the tunnels and all the wind currents you can find across the city. I forget which fucking button it was to keep scanning the area, but I spammed that shit because I didn't want to lose any of the wind tunnels, because I wanted to keep going, see how much farther I could go before eventually it came crashing down like a bad paper airplane. Thankfully, I never did. Hell, and you wouldn't believe the satisfaction of getting that one fucking trophy where you have to fly all the way from one ass end of New York to the other ass, and I think it's Astoria to the financial district. But I thought it was going to be a pain in the ass, but no, it was one of the most satisfying things I've ever fucking done in this game, because I was in the air for so long. It felt fucking amazing. And with the upgrades too to your swing speed and how long the web wings last, this is how you do a fucking big explorative world right. You make it big, you make it full of bustling life and shit, but you make it fun to traverse. That's what a lot of games, I swear, fucking forget, but they kept it going for first game, Miles Morales, and this. And the fast travel system is just like lickety frickin' split. While I do admittedly miss the comedy of like the train scenes from the last 2 games, especially in the later sections where you're hiding from the frickin' Sable guys, I think not only swinging in or flying into the scene is pretty cool, but also especially highlights what a developer could properly do by properly utilizing and optimizing the power of this console by making load times virtually non-existent, which especially for a big, like, explorative game like this, I think is a very, very good direction.
All right, so it is my turn. I'll say it is someone that was on another podcast that said this, so I'm going to echo those words. Unless they make the Spider Mobile and turn that into a bullet train, I have no idea how they're going to top the traversing system in the next game. It is too good. It's so good in the fact that not only is it the mechanics from Miles Morales and Spider-Man 1, but they also added web wings, which is super quick. They said they couldn't do it on PS4, but they wanted to, but it's an idea they just could not do unless they made severe compromises to the game, and I understand that. It feels like Insomniac just took what they could do and they put it in this game, which is pretty awesome. The fact that you could do jump offs of heights with the spider arms, and you can go like faster in midair when you get the full upgrades. It's just fantastic, man. the things they were doing is wild. Loop-de-loops as well, so you can go like upside down over and over again. That was in previous Spider-Man games, but now it's in this one, and it felt right. The funny thing about this game that is kind of comedy gold is the fact that they put in the fall damage. So now people saying that the web swing is too hard, well, go to the options, change it, and it gets tough. You smack into buildings, you will die in one hit. No more fall damage. I know people complained about that with the first one, so that's kind of good that at least they thought about it and they said, hey, we're going to add more of a challenge so you're not like sort of being aided in your web swinging, and you can turn that assist off, which is pretty cool for the hardcore fans who really care about just hardcore web swinging in this game. They really thought about everything in this one, and I just don't see how it's gonna get better than this. It's absolutely fantastic how fast you can just zip in the game, no problem. Shug, it is your turn. What do you think of the web swinging, traversing, fast travel?
I think overall the traversing was pretty very fun, honestly. Especially the web wings. I think the web wings were probably one of the faster ways of getting through. Like I never really used fast travel in these games, so I think the fact that I was able to have the web wings instead of just swinging my way through the map was a lot more fun than the original games, and I think that's probably like one of my favorite parts of it is just the web wing and being able to just use the wind tunnels to get around. The web slinging felt pretty much amazing. You know, it felt a lot more normal, I guess. I don't know. I think it's especially because of the adaptive triggers, kind of make it feel pretty cool, kind of deal. But I think the web slinging was pretty much amazing. The fast travel, I kind of wanted it to be like how they used to do it in the first game, where it would just like pop Peter up in like a random ass place, like in a train or something, in fast travel. But I think I understand why it kind of just didn't do them like that. So it's still pretty interesting how they do where they switch in between the characters and stuff. So I think no complaints in terms of that. But yeah. It was a pretty big upgrade from the first game. That's for sure. Especially with the fact that you can change how the assistants can help you in the web swinging and the fall damage, and just seeing all these people just keel over when they jump down 100 feet, kind of deal, face first. So those are interesting to watch. The game overall just felt good to swing around and stuff. So yeah, I think it was a pretty big improvement compared to the first game for sure.
Brian, it's your turn. What do you think of the web swinging and getting around?
Web swinging is a lot of fun, especially when you're just screwing around in the game. The web wings actually surprised me. I did not expect it at all, but I had a lot of fun, especially if I got high up enough in the air and I just opened up and just let them fly. I think what's especially funny was the fast travel system, because I do think that's especially useful, especially when you're just taking care of like some criminals just messing around, and then you just want to hurry up and get there. Because I can't tell you how many times I'm thinking, on the one hand, I could just web swing because it's natural, but fast travel could be useful because I get sick of criminals popping up left and right. Like that happens in Spider-Man 1, Miles Morales, and even in this one. So I would say traversal wise, everything worked out very well.
And Kaneki, it is your turn. What do you think of the web swinging and how Spider-Man gets around the city?
Obviously, I like it way better than the predecessors because you feel like they feel like they improved the web swinging but added new stuff to it. The fast travel, especially with if you have the playing on the SSD, the fast traveling is like you won't even notice the load times. And what do they mean by traversing systems?
Traversing is like how you get across the city as quick as possible.
Oh, that is really quick. Like I don't even notice like a slowdown or anything. It's like I don't know. I can't remember the last time I played that game and it had a load times. So they really improved a lot on, just on the basics alone.
All right, we're gonna move to the combats, and I'm going to let Justin go first. What do you think of the combat, the symbiote, stealth, gadgets, all of that good stuff?
Oh, well, first with the stealth, I will say it still sort of fucks me up. Just like, I mean, only a little bit that. I mean, only Miles has the stealth when, Peter had it in a fucking suit last game. It's like, what, did it just accidentally toss away the schematic or something? It's like, bro, what are you doing? I know it's to make them like, sort of different, play uniquely, all that stuff. You can be a little more careful with Miles, but that's just, I mean, even then, besides the point, even without the stealth, like, the invincibility on Peter's side, it's still pretty much mostly the same as before. It's just like with Miles, you can take a few more risks because you could just, you could be like the gif of the dude just doing the peace outside and just disappearing. Oh, okay. I should. No, but echoing a sentiment from one of the last questions, I do also love the gadgets being hotkeys rather than the weapon wheel, because the weapon wheel is a pretty cool concept because you had all of these options to use. Having to do this and that definitely sort of broke up the flow of combat a bit. So having them just be hotkeys that you could just press was in my opinion, so much better. And the new, there's some new ability trees in general, like for both Peter and for Miles. Oh man, I never saw myself using abilities so much in combat before, because I mean, and I don't know if it's just me or because I really freaking. I think I might just suck because I swear to you, things hit like a freaking goddamn truck filled with cinder blocks. Or if it's just something else they actually did to to the balancing, I have no freaking clue. So usually to offset this, I can't think to myself, okay, I need to keep punching, I need to keep recharging these abilities, because the abilities are so fucking good for combat, especially when you get them upgraded later on, and they just fuck. Especially later in the game when you get those when you get the anti-venom, shit. Like, that was fucking invaluable. Never in my life have I fucking scrambled to get them back so much. And Miles' electricity, oh my guy. Sometimes I would blink, and before I knew it, I'm like, that was it. Just a bunch of cheap punch cycles. Now when can I get them back? Because the recharge times are still fucking me in the ass. TLDR, they fuck.
I was trying not to laugh. Are you finished with this question, Justin?
Yeah. Again, a TLDR, they fuck.
All right, I guess it's my turn.
That's a damn good thing, by the way.
And they fuck. All right, I guess it's my turn on the gameplay. And the combat. So I did like it. There are things they added. It seems like Miles's stealth combat is the same. You just go invisible and you completely destroy everybody. Even to the point where if you take somebody out, run on a building on the side, and you wait until your invisibility recharges, nobody really pays attention to that. So I thought they were gonna add in a little bit more intricate AI, but I guess not, because like most of the time you're fighting people with hand to hand, and at least they fixed that. Peter's stealth is the same as well, except for the addition of the meter. I think the meter where they say if someone is spotting you and you can't take someone out like close together or whatever, because it will alert the base. I thought that was at least a little tiny add-on that worked, because it was something that I kept web zip kicking people and I kept getting spotted in the original. It's just like, oh shit, well, I fucked that up. I wish there was something to tell me if there was an indication there, and I'm glad they added that in. For the combat itself and the symbiote, I guess the main thing is the symbiote. That symbiote is awesome. The fact that you can do symbiote surge, grab people by the neck, throw them down, the abilities as well, like the symbiote bomb. Peter turns into like a mass of tentacles, runs up on someone, does a combo. It's something that works in succession with the gadgets, but I also see why they cut some gadgets out I know that people were saying, oh, well, I wanted this back, or I wanted the web bomb back, or I wanted the trip mines back. But when Insomniac was talking, they said, you have gadgets and you have your abilities, and they're all mapped to like 8, and you could swap them out between some. If I would have had like the weapon wheel and the gadgets from the previous game and the symbiote abilities, I would have been fucking overpowered. So I understand they cut some stuff back. They said no weapon wheel, slowing down time to make you think out your strategy. You gotta do everything in real time, which is something that is cool. I always like that, where it's like now you gotta think on the fly as opposed to being in the menu and being paused down. And then the stuff for Miles, they added more of his Venom abilities. He could do the double Venom stomp, and that was also cool. And these new electricity attacks. I think the newer animations also show that the combat has a new flair to it as well when you're beating people down, which is awesome. It's very cool. I think the combat in this game is some of the best, as well as some of the abilities they give you. I just wish, the only thing I don't like is I kind of hate that the suit mods are gone, because since those are gone, it sort of is like, you know, you were looking forward to getting a new costume in the first one, and then now that's like gone. So it's like you had those little passive abilities. They could have worked that in there, but again, I know it was a balancing act, but that's the only thing I really, really miss at this point. But I understand what they did with the gadgets. Overall, I have good impressions outside of that one thing that I kind of dislike. I'm gonna pass the baton to Shook.
Accidentally muted myself. Anyways, yes, I will agree with you on that. The fact that they removed the suit mods, that was like one thing that kind of just removed me from liking the suits a lot, because I like the fact that the most suits in the first game had their own type of gadget, and I don't know, it felt kind of just like a letdown a little bit at first, but then you kind of just move on through the story. You end up getting the symbiote suit, which kind of just changes how everything works and makes it a lot more fun than just having the first couple gadgets they give you off the bat. And I think combat wise, I think it was pretty smooth. Again, with the fact that they removed the weapon wheel, I had to stop the game basically to figure out what the hell am I gonna do with my gadgets, kind of deal. And having them be just you know, the hotkey, and you can just launch them all at all the enemies, and you know, just get everything done with. With Miles, I think with Miles it really didn't do much. In all honesty, I don't think they really tried much with changing how Miles works. I think they just were like, hey, let's just make his powers just a bit of the same shit from the first game and just making them more impactful in some way. But yeah, like Miles didn't really change much. I think Peter was the one that got the most upgrades and changes in this game compared to Miles himself. And I mean, the symbiote was pretty fun, especially with the rampage thing that he goes in, which, you know, makes it pretty cool with the way that he just annihilates everybody he comes to contact with. And stealth, there really wasn't that much of it. I don't think. I don't think there was really that much of a need for me to go on stealth. And even then, again, with Peter, it kind of just sucks, and you have to. A lot of stuff has to go with Miles, of course, because he goes invisible, and it was fun. I used a lot more for. I used Miles a lot, mainly because I like his combat a bit more than Peter. And I don't know, like it felt different, of course. Many changes to Peter, especially with the inclusion of having the claws already in his suit and all the other gadgets that randomly popped up whenever the game started. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
All right, next up is Brian. How do you feel about the general combat?
I loved it. Much more seamless and flowing. I was surprised at first when I think I should call it the hotkeys. I was surprised at that at first, but once I really got into it, I was like, yeah, I'll take this over the weapon wheel. Not because the weapon wheel is bad, but weapon wheel did make it where I'm like, okay, crap, I'm in a tight spot. How am I going to do this? All right, got my decision. Boom. Whereas hotkeys, I'm like, it's like, oh, look at this. The bad guys are rushing at me. What am I ever going to do? Psych. And next thing I know, I'm just bombasting everybody. So really showing the power of that exaggerated swagger. You feel me?
Damn it, man.
Yeah, yeah. I knew that was coming.
He
Brian has
exaggerated,
embraced it.
the exaggerated swagger of a black team. All right, so we're gonna move on to the last person. Kaneki, what'd you feel about the combat?
Oh man, outside of the the mods for each suits, which I agree, it was a weird decision to do that. I'm not gonna lie, no sugarcoating. But it almost feels like if I was playing like DMC-isk, but with Spider-Man. That's how I feel like they really improved the combat compared to say Miles Morales or even the first game, even with the remaster. Feel like they improved a lot, outside of removing again the suit mods, which I think it would have improved the combat even more if they would have kept that.
All right, we're gonna go through question number 4 like real quick. Who do you basically prefer playing as, Peter or Miles? Justin, you go first.
I honestly found myself switching between them on a more equal grounds every now and then because I wanted to give them both some love here and there gameplay wise. I will say they did also playing as two different Spider-Men also well enough because they essentially just took their pieces from each game and just put them in here, a few differences, but they play similarly enough to where it doesn't feel too terribly different. You're not having to relearn the game or anything, but they each have their own unique abilities and their own even their down to their animations that make them feel unique enough, especially if you're doing web tricks. You see Miles trying the more flippy kicky shit or whatever, like the kind of shit that you see in the freeze frames in the last game. And even their music when you're swinging, I'm sure everyone noticed that. Like Peter has the more traditional Marvel-esque music when you're swinging across the city. Meanwhile, Miles got the hip hop. Like even just little minute shit like that. They did not have to do it. They didn't have to go out of their way, but they went and did it anyway. And I do love that a lot. So I definitely went 50-50 on that because I didn't prefer one over the other. I liked how they both played.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel as well. It's like for everything that one Spider-Man has, the other one has it, and it's also just as fun. Like I keep thinking, okay, Pete has the symbiote, Miles has the bioelectric stomp, and I'm just like, then Pete has the spider arms, and I'm like, Miles has the electronic tracing through the air when he jumps through the air and he goes faster. And then they have different animations. I like the fact that the music as well is just vastly different between the two whenever you're free roaming, and the dialogue. I think that's one cool thing about doing some of the side missions is that they will both say differing stuff to like differing people, and it feels like you just want to go back and sort of see the reactions between both of them. Overall though, I do agree with people when they say Miles could have used a little bit more story, and I guess I'll talk about that in the story section. Overall, though, what they did present was fine for what it was. I just wish it was a little bit more of it. And I also like the fact that they have differing side missions too. So I believe that bioplant mission that you do with Peter, he can only do that, and Miles has some missions with like obviously Uncle Aaron that only Miles can do, and that was a unique mechanic. I hope they bring that back into Spider-Man 3 where it's like every time you do something it's always different depending on who you pick. So that reminds me of something like a GTA 5 where there are certain places Trevor can go, Michael could go, and Franklin could go. I like that. That stuff was awesome. I hope more video games do that with changing characters in the future. In terms of who I prefer, it's really fucking hard because I find both of them really good in spots. They have their strengths and weaknesses. I'm gonna have to go with Justin and say I'm 50-50. Sometimes I like playing with Miles, sometimes I like playing with Peter. Next up is Shug. What do you think about this question? Who do you prefer, Miles or Peter?
I'm gonna be really honest with y'all. I use Miles a lot, and I can't put away all that swagger or anything. So I had to pretty much use him a lot. I think I used him a lot because of his abilities mainly, and I like how his combat flows compared to Peter. But I think once I had Peter with the symbiote, I used him a lot more because of the symbiote. And at least with Miles, I was able to, how you eventually upgrade the Venom abilities, and same with the symbiote abilities and whatnot. So I think with Miles, I had a bit more fun in how to build him and his abilities compared to Peter. Peter, I normally just let his default bullshit happen. So with Miles, I was able to have the chain lightning thing change into instead of the one punch that it just does sends them flying away. I do the original Venom punch and kind of interchange his abilities and stuff. So I think I used him more because of his abilities and how he flows in combat compared to Peter, because Peter feels so basic sometimes that I just don't like it. But side missions wise, I use Peter a lot more because of the first game. You had kind of more interaction with people as Peter in the first game, in terms of the side quest people that happen. But I would say that I like a maybe 70-30 Miles. I use Miles a lot more in terms of just flying around and doing shit, unless I had to be obligated to change. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Miles. I play more Miles than Peter, I'm pretty sure. So yeah.
Ryan, it is your turn. How do you feel about this sort of change up between Miles and Peter? Who do you prefer?
That's a tough one. I think Peter being the more straightforward in combat is very appealing, and his side missions make it feel like I'm playing more of his. It definitely makes it feel like I'm playing more to what he tends to do and how things work out in whatever version of his stories would go with these side missions. Whereas with Miles, it also feels just as much more like his own thing. I would find myself, playing one for a while, but then I'll switch back to the other. It mostly depends on at what point I would have found myself in the game. So all in all, I would say I find myself swinging both ways. No pun intended.
Right. All right, let's just have the last guy answer the last question. So Kaneki, how do you feel about Peter and Miles? Who's your favorite?
Do I have to choose, or?
Yeah, sorry, you can go 50-50.
I think I would go 50-50 because they both have their pros and cons when playing the two, but when you have, sequences when they both fight each other with each other against enemies, I think that's where they peaked at best with the dynamics between the two. But it's really tough to choose between them because I do like both characters, but when they fight together, it's something else, man.
The last thing I think I'll add on to that is I kind of wish they did an Arkham Knight where in some battles where it's Miles and Peter together, I wish they had a button where you could switch between the two while doing the takedown attacks, because that's one thing I really liked about Arkham Knight that I kind of wish this game had. It's just a small grievance, but yeah, I wish you could just switch immediately on the fly. Hopefully the next game does that though. But we're gonna move on to question number 5, which is Venom himself. So as you know, when we get to a certain point in the game and we see Venom for the first time and he starts stomping and rampaging around and all that shit and throwing people, we get the opportunity to play as him And Insomniac said they want to make a spin-off given the feedback of this game, and that part was something to behold. What do you think of the playable Venom segments? And as a bonus, what do you want with a Venom spin-off with that gameplay in mind? I'm gonna go with Justin first.
Let me first say this. I had to do a double take and wonder if I was even playing the same fucking game, because I'm like, no fucking way. I'm actually doing this. I'm playing as Venom. After one of the last fucking story sequences where that went, and I'll get to that one later. I'm like, how the hell are they gonna keep surprising me with this shit? I'm actually rampaging through the freaking Oscorp building as Venom. I'm actually probably racking up quite a big body count as Venom. I was fucking shook, dude. I couldn't even believe it. It's like the rare instance in the game where you actually play as the bad guy, and it was fun. Once again, it didn't feel too terribly different from how you normally would be playing the game to begin with. It's just that now it's a lot more, how do I even destructive, gruff. Like, it doesn't even give a shit about collateral damage. It's like playing Infamous while doing the evil side. You just fuck shit up and you don't even care. Oh, he does. Yeah. So, who even knows how large of a body count you had by the end of that freaking segment? Like, not just the building itself by this point, but just everything. Everyone except Norman. Because, good God.
You're finished with this question, Justin?
No, I had to take a pause.
Okay.
I mean, for a Venom spinoff, I don't know what I would want, like, story-wise, because in the Insomniac verse has proven that it can go into a million different unexpected directions, because they can and will pull a card straight from the deck that you weren't expecting, like freaking Pot of Greeting the next Exodia piece. But what I will say is, like, take the gameplay from. I will say I do want the gameplay from that one segment in this game, and I just wanted to expand it with, like, more abilities, more powers. I mean, hell, throw a couple silly costumes here and there just for the extra comedy, because you can't have an Insomniac versus Spider-Man game without a couple silly costumes here and there. Now I'm done.
All right. The second I saw this shit, I was fucking excited. It was one of the best moments of the game by far. With the framing, I was sort of questioning it, like, are we gonna play as him a piece out of commission? I was thinking to myself, nah, maybe he'll do the whole superhero struggle, he'll knock over the desk, he'll get back up and fight Venom. But then I started playing with him and eating a bunch of soldiers and tearing off their faces and breaking people's back like twigs, and it was the best ever. It was simply the best. So what this did was it made it worse, and it made me make a list of demands for Insomniac right now. So I was like, Insomniac, I'm gonna need that Venom spinoff, so I'm all for that. And then I'm gonna need something involving the Incredible Hulk, because you already showed that you could do these big powerhouse characters that don't give a fuck, throw people around and destroy buildings. So I'm gonna need Venom, and I'm gonna need a Hulk game immediately in the future. It's just been shown at this rate. So in terms of what I think with the spinoff, I'm gonna say they should do like a separation anxiety thing, where it's like, clearly we have Carnage, and then we have Venom, and we know that Carnage is like stronger as a symbiote, so they could play up this dramatic boss fight where Venom loses, and then after that he has to team up with Spider-Man in order to fight Carnage at the end, or take him out. But clearly he loses, and we need to have some big dramatic conflict with that storyline, and that could be done, because Carnage does have the symbiote, and we're going to talk about him later, but he does have it, and he walks off with it. We know he exists, therefore it's only natural to make a situation where he loses, where Venom loses to Carnage, and I think that's the best story direction to go into, while also trying to build him up. I'm not sure if they should still keep Harry as Venom, personally speaking, I just kind of want the Harry Venom situation to be done and have the symbiote get on Brock and tell his story, because that could be another way to tell the story with the DLC. And we know Eddie Brock is around. I feel like Harry, his emotional story and connection kind of went with Spider-Man 2. I think since this game has ended, that character is pretty much like, other than finding out if he's really cured or not, I think it should get on somebody else. And considering that the symbiotes are all across the city, if they want to keep Harry alive while also having the symbiote get on Brock, they can make some excuse for that as well. I'm sure, everything hasn't been contained so far. Something probably lingering around. We don't know. But I'm going to pass my question off to Shug. How do you feel about Venom and his representation of the game?
I fucking loved it. I think especially with the fact with how not Venom, but whenever Harry pops up with the symbiote and he comes up with the Agent Venom costume, I was like, wait, you're not supposed to be here, kind of deal. And I like the different variation costumes that he went throughout before he lost control over to Venom. And I think the fact that we played as Venom is fucking amazing. And just rampaging through Oscorp, breaking people's backs backwards kind of deal. And it's something that I didn't really expect on a Spider-Man game, especially with the fact that you're playing as Venom. And I think it was like the most PG way of making an R-rated or M-rated game, I think, But the fact that, he would grab people and either bite them or whatever the hell he did and just break one and, just bend them over backwards kind of deal. It hurts to watch, but it was so cool. The fact that you were able to just rampage through everything and just kill anybody that you encountered. And then the fact that Craven went, blow to blow with him in their fight was even crazier. And I think that part was pretty fucking insane. Their whole fight was pretty cool. And, basically murking him in the just like the coolest way possible, just eating that motherfucker. And I think the overall final fight with Venom itself too is pretty cool. I think anything they did with Venom will give them even more chances to make that spin-off they want to do, because that is, I think probably that's one of the better ways to introduce his combat in terms. It gives you an idea of what they want to do with it, and it's like a kind of like a Hulk kind of deal with how they're doing it. So I'm interested to see what they do with Venom in the future and Carnage, if they ever do anything with him. So yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be fun as hell.
Ryan, it is your turn. What do you think of Venom when he first showed up and you started playing with him, and how Insomniac wants to do a spin-off with Venom?
All I'm gonna say is Black Air Force energy and the power of the BBC made everyone in that building into cuckolds. Anyway,
Okay then.
What?
We'll just go with that. Everyone got BBC by Venom.
That's not PG, but okay.
19 inches right there, man.
There's your meme.
straight from the jump. But
Oh man.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
I was just looking at a fucking text message, and all of a sudden I just hear BBC.
It took him until question 5.
I hate you guys. That's getting clips. That's getting clips.
Highlight reel.
Yeah.
But
Oh Christ!
But I do think, in all seriousness, playing as Venom really showed us just what the creature is truly capable of. And I think it's something that in some iterations of the character, not even necessarily who Venom was wearing, but just the creature itself, we really got a chance to see just what he could really do if he was not fully properly contained or even held back. Because for me, like for example, when I played Marvel vs. Capcom 2, that man is a menace. Like it's not just Eddie Brock. The creature, the symbiote, that whole thing is a menace to deal with. Seeing Venom really just go full no holds barred, it was like, you know, I can see this. And it works. And that's where I'm gonna leave that.
All right, Kaneki, what are your thoughts on playing as Venom for the first time, and what do you want with this spin-off that Insomniac wants to do?
When they first give you a tease, a little taste, you know, you taste that chocolate, for example, and you wanted more after you had that taste. That is what they did with Venom. When you first playing as him for the first time, I'm like, when will this spin-off take place? When will it happen, Insomniac? Just give us the release date, and people will pay. Myself included will pay to play that spin-off. And the first thing that I want with this spin-off is simply letting us know more about the symbiote, and what took place between what happened with Harry and Venom while he's taking over the city, and probably maybe after the event of Spider-Man 2. Because I do want to know more about what happens with the symbiote after the event of Spider-Man 2.
Also, I dropped this in recording discussion, but I feel as though getting around the city and traversing, you need the Venom wings.
Yes,
That needs to be a thing, because
I forgot about that.
you put them there. It is time to use them to the best of our
He needs
ability.
to fly in the spin-off.
Yes.
Those mole wings. I was shocked by those.
Oh yeah, that was straight from the newer comic panels. That was fucking awesome.
The last Marvel comic that I probably read in my lifetime.
But yeah, he needs to fly, and you could just make that shit awesome. I'm pretty sure they could do it, no problem whatsoever.
And they have to do it.
Yup.
He did it. He did it when you fight him.
Yup. So don't leave that out, and I think we will be good to go as long as you. And it feels like too, he has like a lot more abilities. Obviously, it's the alpha test of this, so give him just a little bit more that he could do with the symbiote, and I'm pretty sure it'll be a nice time. Put a nice story on that. Make it like probably $40, $50. It's I'm sure people are we're gonna be in there like swimwear, so that's how it is. We're gonna move on to the next question, which is number 6. What are your thoughts on the side missions for Marvel Spider-Man 2? Justin, you go first.
So okay, I did like the side missions quite a bit. A lot of these side quest chains here and there. As even as a few of them were a little disjointed, I'm looking at the Wraith side stuff. Like that was a little disjointed, but they were already pressed for enough, like story versus gameplay, like story versus side mission stuff as is, and all that yada yada. So moving on. I mean, all in all, a lot of them weren't bad, especially like some of them that dove into more community based problems, like the very short Brooklyn Vision stuff. I thought was actually a nice, neat touch. As much as some people say Miles didn't get as much character as he should have, I will still highlight where he did get a bit was helping the people out at his school, even though they didn't know it was him. And I got a funny kick out of the side quests where you rescued that robotic dog, the one that Craven's gang left behind, and I didn't. Apparently, that's the blind lady from Deadpool. Is that actually supposed to be the blind lady from Deadpool that you're helping?
I don't think so, since it's Insomniac's own universe, but I mean, there are Avengers that still exist, clearly with the Doctor Strange reference, but I don't think that is her.
I mean, yeah, you're right. Not enough like calling Spider-Man a dumbass or anything. That's a good point.
Yeah, calling him limp dick. She doesn't call him that.
Wear red. No, but as short as a lot of them were, I still think they were pretty. Like a lot of them still did their job. And also a few curveballs here and there, like I forget his name. I think it was Howard or where. Just that mission. I feel like no matter which Spider-Man you play that mission as, that just comes the fuck out of nowhere and just hits like a straight bullet. So for as quickly as it felt like they were over, I still feel like they did their job. Like they did what they needed to do, and they did not overstay their welcome, which I'm so glad they do. Because it's always hard to find the balance of stuff that feels like, oh, that's it, that just came and went, but also sometimes it's just like, get a move on already. You never want that, especially in side missions in some of these games, whether it be RPGs or otherwise. Because then at that point, are you really having any fun?
I'm gonna keep my reply to this brief, but I thought they were, fine for the most part. Obviously, a few of them had some middling pacing issues, but for what they accomplished, I would personally say it did feel a little bit better than the first game. Obviously, one of the main gripes that I have is tailored to later, but I think the emotional ones that really hit the most, like Howard or the old man talking about his daughter and saying how he reminisced with his wife and now she's gone, those are the essentials for like the friendly neighborhood stuff, which is what Spider-Man tends to do. There are some other ones I found ridiculous, like obviously the robotic dog, and thinking to myself, well, yeah, Genki did wipe his memory, but it was a systematic killing machine, and now an old lady has it. So I was just thinking to myself at that point, it was a little bit ridiculous, but I get that they're trying to do something fun, but still ridiculous. Just overall, they give you a lot more to do for better or worse, and that's the problem I had with the original one. I felt like the side content was just not as great, or it didn't make sense of Peter going through smog and just inhaling it just to work for Harry. I thought that was dumb. So there are instances of that, but there are other instances in the side missions where it felt fine for the most part. It like Spider-Man just wants to help people, and he does a lot more of that in this game, and it sort of is synonymous with the character. So I didn't really have the biggest issue with them overall. I would just say for the next game, they should focus on something like how Red Dead does it, Red Dead 2, where there are these emotional story beats in the side missions, and when you discover them, it's like, fuck, man. So I think they should increase the number of doing stuff like Howard missions or having them more pertinent to the story, as opposed to you go around and you might beat up some group. And honestly, I felt like stuff like the Cult of Flame didn't really pay off until the end. Like at first I thought they were just super boring, and it's like you could do something better with that, like have a payoff at the end, but have the group you're fighting actually interesting, as opposed to, oh, they're boring, and to the point where we find out that Carnage is the head leader and that's it. And it just feels like outside of going through those motions, everything in between that was kind of boring. That's what they need to work on, and that's how I feel about the side missions. I'm gonna pass the baton to Shook.
I feel the same way. I think with the side quest. I think the the those cultists were not really that interesting, in all honesty. Like they were kind of boring, especially with the fact that they kind of just put Yuri in there and are like, okay, so you're gonna have to be doing missions with this bitch that suddenly had a change of heart in some way that wants to work with you. And like, I think they could have just held that off a little bit more. I think I wasn't a big fan of it. Besides, the ending where like, oh, I'm Garnet, and you're like, oh, okay. Um, the I think out of all the side missions, really, honestly, it was like the Howard one was probably like the only memorable one. And the blind lady was interesting, kind of funny, but again, not really something that you're like, oh my god, I can't wait to do this one kind of deal. I still think they need some work with their side missions, but thank God that this time they didn't give that many. There were like only like what 6 total. So I think the way that they made them to where they only pop up at specific times in the story was a lot better. And the fact that there was only a small amount of them, not like half the game. So I think those were a lot better or better managed. But again, I still think they need some work with how to make them a bit more interesting, especially the flame one. So hopefully on the third game they either make them better or probably keep making them pretty mid as the games go on.
I also think incentive would probably help as well. Like, let these people help you, and maybe they'll give you new suits or new story context. I think that's one way of fixing the problem. But we're gonna move on to Brian. What do you think of the side missions in Marvel Spider-Man 2?
I generally like them for the most part. Thinking back to the Code of Flame, I think the irony to that particular side story for me was how the way the code leader was with Wraith, I'm gonna say this, don't judge me. It gave me Killing Joke movie vibes a little bit. It was kind of weird. I'm glad it didn't go fully in that direction, but it was a little weird. And I think if it does anything right, it kind of shows how for somebody like Spider-Man with everything he's lost, as opposed to somebody like Yuri where Spider-Man had time, whereas for her, there's a lot of stuff that was still fresh in her mind about what she was dealing with. So it wasn't quite the same. Because, what happened in the DLC for Spider-Man 1 as part of her story, and then how Spider-Man is seeing it, he's doing his best to empathize, but she just slid deeper and deeper. And it was like, could he have done anything different? Maybe. Would it have mattered? No. And I think for Spider-Man as a character, that's probably a really harsh lesson he has to learn over time, is that he can't save everybody. He can't always do everything for everybody. So I think they all contributed in some way to Peter's and Miles' character development, to where they're not just these guys doing good just to help people. There's actually more to why and how the results affect them as people.
Also, when you say the Killing Joke movie symbolizing that relationship between Cletus and Wraith, are you referring to that France Fucks guy who was obsessed with Batgirl and he was telling her at the end he loved her? Yeah, I didn't like that either. I luckily they curved it and saved it by going in a completely different direction, but I remember seeing that movie and I'm going like, I hate this character. I don't like either this. I don't like how this is going at all. But him being Cletus, like at first I was just thinking to myself, no way, he's like a cult leader or something like that. I was thinking with the red hair, like, why is this guy so fucking important in the Cult of Flame? I don't get it. And she was beating the crap out of him. Then I was like, okay, hold on, wait a minute. And then I saw like when he whipped out the symbiote and it turned red. I was like, there's no doubt in my mind, it's phenomenal. But just the path to get there was so boring that I just wish that they could have made the actual group a lot more interesting. It's like they're just so boring, but the leader is the best part of it, and that's wow.
Usually with a group like that, if they actually are doing anything majorly significant, it would work. But the problem is they're just a bunch of arsonists, and their leader's really just a narcissist.
Yeah.
And no, that's not a bar.
Yeah. And Neki, it is your turn. How did you feel about the side missions?
To be quite frankly, I don't even remember most of the side missions. Because whenever I do like any side missions in Spider-Man 2, I just don't feel like playing them, to be honest. And not, with the controversial ones that people, their reasons of not liking certain side missions. No, I just find them boring in general. Like this is one of those sequels that made me rather play like the main missions, because the main missions get me more intrigued than like the side missions content. Even Final Fantasy 16 side missions didn't make me decide. Well, I'll just rather play. I'll just do the main missions instead. I think this is the first game that I was rather more excited for. The main story than what's happening outside of the main story.
Yeah, but in my honest opinion, I'm like, at least they are side missions, and the ones with significant story is only like 2 of them. To be honest, I can see how they're in tune with Spider-Man's character, but at the same time, they could take those emotional ones. Like, I would say 3 really stood out, but they could take the 2 emotional ones and turn them into something a lot more better for the sequels. I still say Red Dead 2 and Witcher 3 is like top tier side missions to this day. So they could take a page out of there.
More than the
But
main missions.
yep, even GTA is still like very good side content with GTA 5. That's what they need to do for the next one. Just put in more character and heart and more story into those to where they're worth doing, and you get some upgrades. That'd be cool if you could get like certain suits from doing certain side missions. But we're gonna move on to the next one. So we got more controversy with Mary Jane this time. How did you feel about the Mary Jane missions? I'm going to let Justin go first.
Oh, thank fuck that they're less and they're better. I'm gonna just start it with that right now. The missions this time around are so much better than the last game. Y'all are fucking crazy if you think they're not. I'm gonna be straight with you right now. If you think they're not, you're wrong. I say that like a drunk guy. Holy shit! Just from the first one, from the first fucking one, you already have a means of distraction. You have that shit, right? Like you have an audio lore. Like you even have the taser. You even have a taser that you can use from the first fucking one. As long as you play your cards right, you can tase a motherfucker. Yeah, and she can take a hit. You're not dead when you're spotted. She can actually take a hit. Sure, it's like two, two, but that's still 2 more than the last game. At least you have a buffer period to just get the hell out of Dodge because freaking, you're just a normal person and not a Spider-Man. And they only kept adding more shit to use every single time that I didn't actually mind. I'm like, oh, MJ section, I'm gonna be here a while, but at least I got someone to shock someone with. At least next I got a gun, a web gun, but a gun's a gun. And stealth still involved. Guess what? I didn't care. I had a gun. I had a sonic gun later, and that was that was actually pretty fucking cool. She actually gets to fight back, man. Gets to fight back. She gets to take a hit, and they're nowhere near as intrusive. They actually feel like they make some degree of fucking sense here. That's all we needed. I mean, sure, I would love her to take more than just 2 fucking hits, like with any kind of game, but at least it makes sense to why she could take only 2 hits. But fuck, if they're really gonna come back again in 3, then at least it's a huge step in the right direction. Because last time game over upon getting spotted was just such a fucking pace breaker, and those stealth sections lasted for what felt like a million fucking years, and here they don't. They don't. It's like there's actually a stopping point. It's like, are we done? Oh my god, we're actually done here. I got it right. There's a stopping point. Hallelujah. Insomniac, y'all got it.
All right. Everyone, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, y'all could tell y'all could tell I was just so happy for the general improvements because holy shit.
Oh no, I feel you, man. So everyone who has followed me on this topic knows I fucking hate the Mary Jane side missions in the original Spider-Man PS4. I hated them. Couldn't stand them. I felt like what you had was a giant like block of stuff to do and roam around and not get spotted and no weapons. It was just boring. It was some of the most boring stuff in those games. So I actually agree with people that in the first one they weren't that great. In this one, at least there's a lot more action. There's a lot more to do, and it makes sense in the context of, well, she was away for a year in Symkaria training and she got some self-defense from Black, like, no, not Black Cat, Silver Sable. I'm sorry, I get those two always mixed up. But Silver Sable taught her a little bit, taught her the ropes, and that's how she got some hand-to-hand combat training. I find that to be completely fine. I know people say Mary Jane Wick and the way she's doing takedowns, and it was funny at first without context, but since I got the context, I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. She was speaking their language to the Craven hunters, luring them, being smart. It was interesting. The best part of that segment was probably, to me, the horror element they were trying to do with Peter just waking up in the middle of the neighborhood and botting every single person, and you have to run from him and he's chasing you. I see people say, oh, this didn't belong in the game and stuff like that, but I thought that was well done because it showed at that point the symbiote was out of control. It was going berserk and it was attacking anyone that it saw. It needed.
People were criticizing that.
Yeah, people were. They were saying, oh, I don't want to play as Mary Jane in this segment, but I'm like, this is a full-on survival horror segment. This shit is cool. It breaks up the monotony, and it's not even really that long. So I appreciated that. I was like, oh, it adds context to the story, and it shows how dangerous the symbiote is. We find that out later with Craven getting almost chokeslammed by Peter and the symbiote. The last one is just a straight up Dead Space Resident Evil clone, and I'm just like, I don't mind this. Give me more of that. Shooting these symbiote monsters all over the place and trying to survive. So compared to the first game, I can't get too mad about it because at least when they put them in the game, they did something interesting with them, as opposed to saying you're Mary Jane or you're Miles, pre-powers, and you just have to sneak around, stay in one spot, get some documents, and leave. They all felt the same in the first game. So you gotta give Insomniac some credit for at least making it work in the story and making it work with the gameplay and the tasers and the takedowns and everything. That's kind of how I feel about it. I'm going to pass the baton to Suge. What do you feel about the MJ missions?
I thought they were pretty fucking cool this time around. At first I was like, ah, shit, I gotta play this bitch again. But then she pulled out the gat, and I was like, okay, she got a gun now. So, and she took a shot and everything too in the first introduction they gave you. So I think I was a big fan of her missions a lot more now, especially with the fact that she had some training from Silver, and she brought all that shit back, and she was like, I got this big ass taser, I'm gonna fuck these people up with this thing. I think even the upgrades she gets towards the end are even cooler with the fact that she could get rid of the symbiotes, and that whole section with the symbiotes was something, and I was like, I'm okay playing her because I know she can defend her fucking self, and I don't have to run away like a bitch. And the section where you're looking and chasing after Peter was amazing. I think I was probably like a more favorite mission of her that I had for this game, and especially whenever she seals herself in the tunnel with him to find him, and he just goes like run kind of deal. So I was like, oh shit, they had a horror element to this for some reason out of nowhere, and it was cool. It was fucking amazing, and it was like scary as hell kind of deal. So like, I hope they improve even more on the next game for whenever they do more MJ side quests. Or hell, they can leave it the same. Just keep her with the gun and a way to protect herself. As long as she can be useful. If y'all want to give her body armor, give her body armor or something. I don't know. It's like this was the way to do her, and they did it right. And I think it improved a lot more in that from that first game with the sneaky bullshit.
Ryan, what about you? How'd you feel about the Mary Jane missions?
I thought this one was very much well done in comparison to the last ones, because first game you couldn't really do a whole lot, and I thought that for a stealth mission, if you're gonna do that, if you get caught, don't make it an instant game over. Her being able to dish out some hits when she takes somebody down, I thought was cool, because I think back to an episode of the '90s cartoon where her and Spider-Man got caught together, and I think it was the Daredevil 2-part episode. And what was very interesting was in that episode, one of Kingpin's henchmen comes up trying to catch her, only she catches him slipping. She actually manages to trip him up with a nicely timed move. And it was like, huh, she could do that. So seeing her be more like that in this game came across a lot better. Hey, that is a fiery redhead. Anyway, I think that's something going forward they want to definitely do more of, because one thing I'm noticing with a lot of Marvel comics as of late, with a lot of their well-known side characters, they're making them more and more capable of protecting themselves in one form or another. And I know a lot of people have said before they hated how some iterations of Mary Jane, she was a complete damsel, and I get why now. So they did a much better job with her stealth missions this time compared to the last time.
Kaneki, what about you? How you feel about this question?
I'm actually surprised that they actually improved the Mary Jane missions this time around, because I thought they would never improve, because I thought, okay, so we're gonna have the same missions we had like from the first game. Nope. As soon as you gave her a gun, immediately improves playing Mass Mary Jane in those missions. And I'm not gonna lie, it makes me want to play more of Mary Jane, as long as she has the gun, of course, because when you give her the gun, it makes the mission more interesting. Makes you want to shoot more enemies, and then sometimes playing as the main characters. But hopefully in the third game they would actually improve Mary Jane even more, and maybe give her like outside of the gun, maybe like she uses like a katana blade. Instead of doing stealth missions, she could finally join in your party and fight off the baddies.
All this really made me want is like them to do a comic book horror game, because I think Blade would be right up their alley as well. That part with the tunnels, absolutely crazy, dude. Like, goddamn, like I need more of that.
Yeah, which one surprised people? Like, there was apparent criticism of that. It was perfectly set up. It kind of reminded me of like an old school, like, Resident Evil game or some shit.
It's like people are the reason they don't like it because, oh, where's all the Spider-Man stuff? But that's like Mary Jane's segment is like literally 3% of the game, and the rest is Spider-Man. It makes no sense with that complaint.
Have we not been playing the same game?
Dude, I'm just like, you can play Spider-Man throughout like mostly all of the game. It's not really that big of a slice.
Gee, where's all the Spider-Man stuff? Oh, you mean the symbiote that's trying to kill you just now?
I'd be scared of that thing too.
With a number of the crazy horror-esque characters Marvel has, Venom is just one of them.
Yep.
So it's kind of funny hearing people have that complaint, because it's like even in the, like, for example, the '90s cartoon when Peter has that dream, that's wild. And it's not even a regular type of wild. It's the kind of wild where it shows the struggle of what happens if Venom fully takes over your personality. And then on top of that, on top of that, with the kind of strength that the symbiote itself can have with or without a host, because we saw that in the third Sam Raimi Spider-Man, and everything about that with how, it's like I said, Venom, the symbiote alone is dangerous. It attaches to someone, lets itself grow. If that person escapes, still watch out, because that thing is not going to give up without a serious fight.
And I also think dream sequences, nightmare sequences, and horror has been in Spider-Man a bit. Like there was Spider-Man 2 with the whole Doc Ock killing all the doctors, and then there was the nightmares he had with the Man Spider and how he had like the 6 arms and going around and eating people and knocking people down. So it was just like little touches and callbacks here or there, which is pretty much still synonymous with the series. It's nothing that hasn't been done before, but it was done really well in this game.
Oh yeah.
All right, so this is the meat and potatoes question. This is all about the story and the characters. How did you feel about the story and the characterization this time around? We're gonna go with Justin first.
Well, it definitely called back to before. It started off with your typical Spider-Man antics. The guy's just trying to live a normal day, but you can't have a normal day when you're a Spider-Man. They both got a freaking ditch class to go fight Sandman, and that was such a kick-ass intro. What better way to start your freaking game rather than the simple shit? You just go with the bombastics. Just go all out. Freaking giant Sandman attacking the city, big freaking boss sequence. Big like dynamic tutorials and all that. All the witty banter included. I'm just gonna get that part out of the way. The witty banter, I still love that they keep up all that shit. I feel like it's just part of the Spider-Man MO. You can't really be too much of a Spider-Man in this part without the witty banter. It just wouldn't feel the same without it. But so much of it, to me, definitely kept the tone of the original, but as the shit kept going, all the stakes just kept going up and up. This felt like almost felt like they sort of borrowed from the Raimi script a bit. I'm not gonna lie, and I mean, hell, they brought back that suit. So if any of y'all wanna once again relive a Raimi sequel we never got, play with that suit on. I know, I certainly did for a few missions just to break up the monotony. And okay, Peter with the symbiote as he kept going. Oh my god. That part of his character arc was so beautifully done. Because it hits more because you're actually playing as a dude. You can hear it in his delivery, you can see it in the symbiote abilities, in just the way he handles everything. That part later in the game when he's talking to Dr. Connors, and it's just like, I think like that's the exact moment when the suit changes appearance. It looks like a more evolved version, right?
Yeah.
I mean, first off, hats off to the designers for that, because I think it's based off of an unused Raimi design for the symbiote suit, last I heard. And if that's actually the case, oh my god, we were sort of robbed back in the Raimi days, because it's a kick-ass looking suit. But secondly, when he says destroy us, I went, oh shit. Because also the VAs, they well, first off, y'all better fucking pay them, because they were all amazing, especially like Yuri's return performance as Peter. Like, some freaking award-winning shit right there. Let me just tell y'all right now. It felt they got it. They fucking nailed the kind of shit the symbiote could do to a person. And I'm not gonna lie, I was half expecting after he woke up on a bench just to start freaking doing the goddamn Spider-Man dance scene from the third Raimi film. It almost gave off those vibes. I swear to you, like just the way he like didn't remember a thing, and he just said, "Oh, I feel great. I slept so well despite going on a rampage just the previous night." I was half expecting him to just go busting and just like go into a clothing store, get a nice freaking jacket, black pants. We were almost there, y'all, but sometimes some memes just need to stay in their original formats.
So, Justin, are you done with this one?
I was just taking a sip.
Okay.
Hey, it can't go without my hydration, dude. Hail hydrate.
Hell hydrate. Okay, that's a good one.
And I mean, Miles throughout this whole thing, like he definitely is improved as a Spider-Man. He's showing that he's still, in several ways he's green, but he is still learning at the same time. Like you see his maturity throughout the rest of the game, especially when dealing with stuff about Martin Lee. Like he had every opportunity to kill him at the end right over there. Like, he had every fucking opportunity, but he didn't. Like the dude is learning from everything. He's just seeing, growing, and he did the right fucking thing. I was half expecting him to kill him. Don't ask me why, but again, the Insomniac verse, again, I will say this until this fucking point is grinded to fucking space dust. The Insomniac verse just loves pulling the rug right from under you. So for all I know, he actually could have just freaking just given the guy the freaking clear. But no, he just said fuck that shit. It's like Peter, you owe me one. And here we are. I feel like we could go on for hours and hours on this point, because holy shit. But the story to me definitely felt like another good entry into the mythos. The characterization, I felt like definitely paid right to the original formats. And the performances, I will say, Sony and Insomniac, y'all have better fucking paid them, and paid them well, because if not, I'm gonna rain down hellfire upon you, because those are some of the best performances I fucking heard, and this is coming from a theater major. Y'all hear me? Y'all better paid them. Now,
I have just a bit to say, but I guess just to simplify my stance, the whole moral of the game is about two things, in my opinion. The first being addiction. I see the symbiote as something that people are addicted to, and it is addicted to Peter in a large sense. And he changes throughout the course of the game. It's just, it's just that sweet spot they're taking from the comics, and I think that was very well done. Yuri really embodies Peter, and just one thing that people have pointed out, but I'm sure I'm not going to be the first and I won't be the last, but how Yuri just embodies anger when he's Peter, and in the symbiote you hear his angry quotes, like he's telling people, oh, good riddance, and just beating the stuffing out of them. It's peak stuff. Like it cannot go understated how great of an actor he is, and how that reigns true with the story. So I thought those addiction parts were really great, because you were seeing this character being broke down in several degrees, and knowing that this alien has like total control over what's going on with them with this negative tendencies. I also like that they enhanced Mary Jane. Like in the first one, I felt like Mary Jane was dumb, for lack of better words, when she wasn't listening to Spider-Man, but in this one it seems like
stupid.
Yeah, but in this one 180, she's just cares about Spider-Man, cares about Peter Parker, wants to see him succeed, and it's kind of shocking when she gets turned into a symbiote and you're beating the crap out of her. You see all this stuff coming back and forth, and Peter's like sorry he never got the chance to say he's sorry, and they're all just fighting out. And it's a crazy scene. I also
that shit threw me through a loop, dude.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And one part I also liked is the relationship between Harry Osborn and Peter Parker. I think that is the crux of everything. It was well done, because they introduce him in the first one, but you get more time with him, you get more bonding, you get more flashbacks, and it ultimately pays off when he turns into Venom. And it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna heal the world now. And he's kidnapped MJ, and it gets crazier at the end. And it's like the whole city is in complete turmoil by the end of it. Like everything's fucked, dude. And you're seeing the results of letting this thing that was a lab experiment go way too far. and let it get way too much. Not only that, like, of course, a good bulk is a ton of Peter praise, but I feel like Miles was really good in the story too because he had to get over his revenge with Martin Lee. It's like he got to a point where he's gonna let people die if he basically let them fall into the ocean in the giant metal contraption, which is Peter's like, oh, help me, come on, hurry up. But he's like, no, Lee's right here, I can kill him. I can kill him. But he changes his mind because he knows that great responsibility is still first, which I kind of like how they toy with that. Like, what is the tipping point between being vengeful and having great responsibility? And it showed between both characters. The only thing I can say that I disliked in the story was I think they needed a lot more time with the symbiote story because they kind of bust it out, rush it out at the end where you're just fighting. Like, I understand the city's like all infested with all these crazy symbiotes, but I think Tony Todd came on record and he said, I only recorded like 10% of dialogue for this game, showing that they either cut a significant portion or it was basically going to be more Venom and they didn't do it for some reason. I would assume reserved for standalone content, Marvel's Venom, but that's kind of unfortunate because I think the third act could have been cooler if it was more Venom or Venom boss fights or just him being involved in the story a lot. Other than that, I think this is a grade A game in terms of story and characters. Just that third act could have been a lot longer than need be, and I think that would have been just perfect if they did that, but they didn't. So very solid all around though for what they deliver in this game. I'm gonna let Shug go next.
I think story-wise was pretty good. I did love the connection of Harry and Peter. I think that's always like a good foundation for Spider-Man. You always need to have him with his friends in terms of either reconnecting or having like a falling friendship kind of deal, or always something always happens in Peter's private life that kind of just screws over anything that happens in the story. I think overall their relationship was pretty interesting. You see them that they pretty much grew up together, as we all know, and they had an amazing friendship throughout high school and all that stuff. So I think they did a pretty good, solid way of showing how they have their friendship kind of deal. And whenever the symbiote kind of takes over Peter, you see that he kind of treats him like an asshole, which is again not anything new because of how the symbiote works, kind of deal. I think Miles overall was kind of like the more developed character in this game. I think mainly because he's still pretty green in terms of how being Spider-Man and all that stuff. And I think it was more of like this game was definitely like a passing of the torch kind of deal. Like it gave you that kind of feeling, especially towards the end of it. And I feel like this game kind of set up like a good way of just having Peter, just calm the hell down kind of deal. Like he pretty much ruined his life in terms of just being Spider-Man and kind of just like not being able to handle keeping a job, having to be in a relationship with MJ and all that kind of stuff. And I think that the fact that he was not able to balance that private life kind of shows a lot in the game. And in a way that he was training Miles, you can kind of see that Miles also has the same situation, but not as bad. He's like, you can see that he kind of manages it in some ways because of his friends. And it was pretty interesting. And I'm happy that they kind of did it this way, especially with the fact with how they built Miles in terms of him trying to get over his dad's death and all this kind of stuff with Lee. I think the stuff with Lee was pretty interesting. How he kind of just I think he just forgave him of what happened and stuff, and it was like it's kind of like a growing character kind of deal. Like he's maturing in some way. Besides, they need to change that man's style because that Colgate suit was not good. But I think overall, character-wise, they were all pretty well written in some way. MJ, supportive as always, and Harry being like pretty much like the newest character introduced in this game. It was pretty interesting how he approached his friendship with Peter and all this stuff. So like, and I think with how he was dominated by the symbiote, kind of again displays how they all really feel, but not really in some way. So it just interesting how they did all the characters. I think it's probably one of those games where I liked every character that they showed this time around. So yeah.
Oh yeah, and one thing I think I forgot to mention, I think the Be Greater tagline also ties in a lot with the story. It tells us that it's symbolic to rely on people that can depend on you and they will end up saving you at the end of the day, which is exactly what happened when Peter was like fighting Miles, because I don't think he would have gotten conflicted and changed around and taken the symbiote off if Miles wasn't there. I think Craven would have been good as dead. So we're gonna move on to Mr. Brian Word. Brian, what do you think of the stories and characters in Marvel Spider-Man 2?
I do think that the story was not just wasn't just enjoyable. They really did a good job with the characterization. The ending portion with the climax with Venom, I did think that was a little bit more dragged on than it should have been, but it was still pretty great. I think seeing how Miles and Peter try to handle everything in their lives was especially gratifying to see because, like everybody mentioned, Peter struggling to have a job while being Spider-Man, Miles just trying to live a normal life while being his own Spider-Man. The both of them having no relationships with their people. Like, Peter's lost both his parents. He's lost his aunt and uncle by now. So this man is literally the last of his family, but he's forming something of a new family unit where he has MJ, who, let's face it, she's likely to be his wife in the future. But then he's also got Rio Morales and Miles, where they're coming together. They're coming together with him. Harry's friendship with Peter, where Harry's the brother he never had, but like every story like that, as brothers they come to blows. But it's one of those things where it's like it's not as simple as they're disliking each other. It's the fact of something forces them to actually separate in their bond for a little bit, because that's just what's bound to happen. With Peter and MJ, there's a whole thing of she's trying to keep this job with Jameson and prove that she is ultimately a good kind of journalist that, let's face it, Jonah is always not. He has his times where he's good, but more than half the time he tends to be very bad journalist. Miles just trying to be a good son, not have his mom worry, trying to make sure he has a future aside from just being Spider-Man. Him and Genki, I think they're just going to be bros no matter what, because Genki's right there. He's seeing what Miles sees, and Miles having this thing with this girl, Haley, I thought was interesting because on the one hand, Miles at his age, he's in a much better place compared to Peter, but he's still going to struggle with understanding himself, what he ultimately wants, what it means to make some of the decisions he makes. And he started coming to that place where he can finally do that. And I think Peter trying to be a mentor, they're both showing the downsides to them doing what they do, because Pete can't always be there. Miles sometimes going to have to figure out things on his own, even if Peter is either unable or if Peter just could have given him already what he needs to know, but it's just Miles has to figure out what that means in whatever situation. So everything about the story really hones in on the people. it's not just some action-packed story, but it really shows the depths of the people involved in the story. Especially when you think about Norman, how much he loves Harry, but how much he does despite how much he loves Harry and the depths he's willing to go for the sake of Harry. On a side note, I would have liked to have seen Norman with the waves back, like in the 90s. Anyway, that's all I got to say.
God damn it. The red waves in there.
I'm saying, man, he had the waves. He had the drip back then. All right, go ahead.
We're gonna move on to Kaneki and ask his opinion. What do you think of the story and characterization of Spider-Man 2?
Hmm. I feel like y'all have like great answers to this question, but I do think that when it comes to this question, my only answer is I do like it. I do like the overall story in general, and especially with the characterization, especially with the relationship between Peter Parker and his friend, Harry, of how they were back then, and then how they are now, especially when Harry got the symbiote suit on him for the first time. It was like there are times where I do want a spin-off of how Peter and Harry could be as a team, instead of, Peter and Miles, like an alternate universe type of content. And when Harry loses that suit to Peter, you know, emo Peter Parker is the best thing this game had to offer. And then after all that, and Miles beat up Peter out of the suit comes back to Harry, and Harry's personality changed. I think it changed when Peter was like giving him shit during his emo phase when he has the symbiote on. And I think a lot of emotions going on between all three characters and how they go through with their own lives and how they dealing you know with all the struggles and stuff.
All right. I have a short question before we move to the final two questions. This is just like real quick. I'm surprised this one was not on there, but favorite suits, least favorite suits. Justin, you go first.
Oh, that's a rabbit hole. Um, let's see. I mean, I will forever love the Raimi suits because, again, wearing the Raimi suits and seeing them in cutscenes still, again, makes me feel like I'm watching a Raimi sequel we still never got. I did that in the last game on a New Game Plus, and I loved it there. I still love it here on the occasion. Uh, I adore the Bodega cat suit so much. I'm glad they brought that back because you still get the same specials as before with Spider Cat just joining in your finisher sometimes, and that's still to me one of the funniest fucking things ever. Also, the cat's just freaking adorable, and if anyone's got a problem with that, they can fucking fight me because you can't have a bodega without a cat. I don't make the rules here. The, I mean, the only suit I really didn't like personally, like a lot of the other suits, I'm just like, I mean, I don't know some of this. I don't know a few of these. I don't know all that. Oh wait. Before that, I do also love the Spider-Verse suits. All the Spider-Verse suits, I love seeing those. I love seeing those in here from Noir to even the both Spider-Verse suits from like the first one and the second one, and how they keep the animation style from Spider-Verse when you're actually wearing them. And even the Noir suit gets you a freaking black and white filter, and I thought that was such a neat touch. Again, they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to make them animate like they did in Spider-Verse either, but they went out of their way to make sure it is. It clashes so hard with the actual main art style of the game and all that animation, but I don't care. Fan service at its freaking finest right here. So I just say I don't give a fuck. I love it. Also, there was only one suit I was not the biggest fan of, and that's just Miles' suit by the end of the game. It's like, bruh, you almost had it. It's like I can see where he was going with the sneaks and the neon. You see, that just sounds typical, especially for the era this this game takes place in, because it's pretty clear it's just what if we, as a species today, have all these threats, like with this, like, and the Spider-Man are fighting against them? It's so plainly obvious just from how some people interact, just from some of the other cultural changes you can see across the board, especially like here and there. Take your time, you'll figure it out. But it's that damn head cover to let out his hair. I'm like, bro, why? It looks so tacky, and how the hell do you keep an identity like that? Who else knows anyone like that with that hair? The minute they see your hair, dog, you're getting figured out. It's what the hell am I looking at here? It's literally the one part of the suit that just made it so iffy for me. If he kept on a real ass mask, I would not have cared as much. But that one suit, that one damn suit right there, I'm like, it's close, Chief, but not it. Consider a full
Hey, man,
mask by the next game because
Hey, man, it was for the culture. You know that.
what culture has
Bro,
your
not even the culture. Like, what the fuck you mean?
oh yeah, your secret identity be figured out by your freaking whack ass hair, bro. I don't know anyone else in a city like New York. Miles being the only one who got that hair, despite all the very unique kind of characters you can encounter in New York.
Look,
Just let it speak for itself.
He's trying to keep his curls out for the girls out. It's the only way. But are you finished with this, Justin? Because it's my turn after this.
Yeah, you actually timed it pretty well.
Okay. So I'm going to pick out a few suits that I like for Peter, then Miles, then give my worst suit, which is probably super obvious at this rate. So the first one is the Arachnite for Peter. It's cool because like Peter with a hood and a cape, you can't beat that. And plus, like I like the suits that have like different colors to them. It's a couple that didn't for whatever particular reason, but it's like okay, whatever. But I like those with the colors to them because you can change palettes and just overall customize what you want to wear. I also like the webbed black suit, which is the Black Raimi suit, and also the original Iron Spider is back in this game, which is one of my favorites. As for Miles himself, also I like the Civil War outfit for Peter. I think that's pretty cool. A nice little throwback to that. For Miles, I like the Shadow Spider outfit. Once again, the hood, the cape looks badass. The Bodega Cat outfit. There's also one, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. looks like something you see out of Fantastic Four. So that's kind of, the blue is kind of amazing. It stands out. That's pretty cool. As well as the Wolverine outfit, the best there is. As soon as I saw this, I instantly wore it because I'm like, okay, this is a nod to the next game that you're doing, Insomniac. I know you're trying to be slick, but this looks kind of cool, and that's a nice throwback, and I'm wearing the black one right now. As for worst suits, I'm sure everyone has guessed it. It's the fucking Evolve suit, where he looks like a pair of Nikes in Adidas. And it's like, I don't know what they were thinking with this outfit. I heard it was product placement, which is the only reason he shows up in it at the end. They say that like Adidas are the ones that commissioned this costume, and it makes sense because when I saw the cutscene, it was random, it was out of nowhere, and he's like, "Oh well, this new thing fits me." I'm like, "What are you wearing?" Like, no way. It had to be like some collusion going on, and I think that is the case because of the shoes, and I hate it because it doesn't mesh well. I feel like if the hair wasn't on the outside, it'd be far better. Now, I know people would say, oh, well, they needed to make something different. Okay, that's fine. But the suit has a hood, so you could have just iced the hair, put up a hood, and it would have been 10 times better. Because I think the colors on the Evolve suit, the one that's like the white and black and red, I think that looks fine. But the hair is a mess. So if they got rid of it, and there's been artists that made their own rendition, looks way better than what is in game, and I thoroughly stand on it 100%. So Shug, it is your turn. Favorite suits, least favorite suits.
I'm just gonna start off with the worst suit, which is that fucking Miles thing. That is the quickest suit I've ever switched out of in this fucking game. As soon as the cutscene ended, I paused, I switched his outfit. I don't care, I hated it. That motherfucker looked like a Colgate tube. And I wasn't a big fan of it at all. I hate it. I will never like it. I don't care what anybody tells me. I hate it. You can call me racist if you want. I don't care. I hated it. It was horrible.
I was gonna
Moving
say
on to the
it's-
best suits. I think for Miles, to me, the suit that I wore the whole game was the Boricua suit, which I wanted to represent, so I kept that suit the whole game. Another suit that I like for him that I used a lot in the Miles game. I think it's called the End suit, where it's like camo pants and he's wearing a hoodie. I think it's like End 2020 or some shit like that. That's probably like one of my second, maybe third favorite suit. His shield suit is pretty nice, and the tracksuit. I think his tracksuit outfit is pretty nice. For Peter, the Raimi suit, of course, but the symbiote Raimi suit. I wore that one most for him. Then the anti-venom suit, I kind of just kept it on because I liked it. Spider-Man 2099, probably my favorite outfit of all Spider-Man. I kept that on there too. And I think my least favorite one would probably be for Peter, maybe. It's like anything that's like weird. So like probably the one where he's like wearing a bandana and like some straps on his chest or whatever. That futuristic one that looks kind of stupid. And the Craven suits are pretty nice too. The Craven suits are fucking amazing for both of them, and the Wolverine suit too. But it still didn't make me like switch out of the ones that I already had set up for like their whole story and stuff. Except that Colgate suit.
I guess I want to mention my worst Peter suit real quick since I just started thinking about that. The programmable matter suit. Look, even in the first game, I thought this thing was ugly. Peter looks like a fucking diamond. Like I have no idea who thought this looked good, but I always hated it. It's a nice little concept with the fact that the Spidey arms are kind of glowing and the legs too, but the top half of the suit looks like broken glass. It's terrible. I don't like it. Brian,
Yeah, life story.
2000 on a suit.
Life
Yeah.
story is a horrible suit too.
yes, yes. But Brian, it is your turn. What is your favorite suits, least favorite?
I was gonna say I should called it the Colgate suit. Oh man, that's definitely a least favorite because it was like I first started hearing about the suit, didn't even see it yet, and I'm like, I wonder what everybody's beef is. And then I took a look at it, I'm like, there's a decent design in part of it, but I see why everybody doesn't like it because it's just like I was joking earlier when I said, it was for the culture, but someone somewhere out there is taking that statement pretty seriously. Dear God, I hope they're not, but they most likely are. And the other thing too, when you actually look at that costume, what makes it so much worse is the fact that it didn't have to be designed like that, but because y'all were talking about that suit, I started thinking to myself, that whole suit was like a product placement. And then when you said Adidas had a hand, and I'm like, I didn't even know that. How did I know that? Like that was just me BSing about the whole idea because that's what it literally looks like. But that's hands down definitely a worse suit. They should have just left Insomniac with the design for that suit. One of my personal favorites with Miles was one of the Mysterio costumes he has because there's a white, black, and gold variation of that suit that puts me in mind of the White Ranger from the original Power Rangers, which for those who know who plays that character, I just thought it was an awesome look. As far as Peter, the anti-venom suit was definitely interesting. So that's definitely a favorite for multiple reasons besides just this look. As far as my least favorite, it's hard to say. So many of the suits look good, but I don't know that there's a least favorite among Peter's suits that I have. And that's really all I got for that.
All right, fair enough. Kaneki, it's your turn. Favorite suits, least favorite.
Right off the bat, I want to tell you my least favorite suit of Miles Morales right now, and it's the outside of the evolved suit, which thank goodness I never used it once that cutscene was over, because I have other better suits to give him. Uh, there was a text. Was there like an encoded suit he had?
I think so. Yeah,
I didn't. I didn't like that for Miles.
I think that was the one I was talking about. I meant that for Miles, not Peter. If I hated a suit for Peter, it would be the blue suit. I just looked at it. It's just bland outside of the regular
Yeah.
blue color.
Like there's no value to it at all. I even like his. I didn't even know I had this suit. I like his Agent of Shield suit better than that fucking tech suit he has. Miles has. That's ridiculous. Favorite suits. That's kind of hard because I do like a lot of the suits for Peter. Uh, especially the ones with that makes him look like an Assassin's Creed character. Like if he wears a hood, I automatically like it. Uh, his noir suit, I actually like in this compared to it was added in the last game, right? The first one.
I think so.
Because in this one, it feels like that cinema. Whenever he moves around, it's like a cinematic Into the Spider-Verse animation. What was it, 24 frames? I
Yep.
do like that. And the classic black suit. You got to give love to the classic black suit. You know you had to pick it when you had the symbiote powers
Hmm.
to make it to fit. And I do like his last hunt suit where he has like the Craven suit. I actually like that for both actually. It really fits them. Also, there's another suit I liked in the game that nobody pointed it out that that's what Insomniac's next game they're working on. Wolverine, the best there is suit.
Huh.
They know what they're doing.
Yep, that's exactly what they said. We're just alluding to something we're working on next. Don't worry about that.
And one more suit that I do like is the where he dresses up as Mysterio. I do like Miles's Mysterio costume for himself. That's it.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the final two questions. What are your thoughts on the build-up for a potential Spider-Man 3 that was sprinkled throughout the game? So this was showing that Cindy Moon, Silk, is at the end. Chameleon, who is one of the brothers of Craven, he's also going to be probably a villain. Norman and Doc Ock teaming up for the final chapter, and remember, Doc Ock knows who Peter is. Norman probably is going to know who Peter is at this rate, and that's going to be pretty bad. Carnage is on the loose, and Peter is taking a short hiatus as Spider-Man, which there was controversy with that as well, but for some reason people believe that a break is retirement, and that's not going to be the case for the next game. I think Peter's going to come back out of retirement when all the stuff culminates into one thing. So first, we'll let Justin go.
They set the bar, and I hope that they will get to deliver. Well, first, I hope they get enough development time to deliver because with everything that's been set up with all of that, they're gonna need a couple of freaking years to get all that shit done right. And that's just from a story perspective. I can't even imagine all the gameplay and shit. But okay, yeah. So take all the damn time, Insomniac. We can wait. Just make sure to give us a damn good game. They got some shoes to fill with all that because just the prospects alone are all just sounding like they're really gonna try and blow people away with this finale. Hold on. Fuck. Gotta love it when it just comes right up when you're trying to speak. Anyway. The, ooh, I don't even know what's gonna happen because Especially the way Otto said the final chapter when he was holding the book in his cell. It gave me some vibes of, oh, I don't like where this is going. Because who knows what can happen at this point, especially when you have, especially when you also have Silk coming in. It's like, you think they're gonna actually quite literally pull the trigger on Peter? You think it'll finally fucking happen? I can't fucking tell. I don't even know what's gonna happen anymore. And if they do end up actually saving Carnage for 3 rather than like, a unannounced DLC campaign we have no fucking clue about, you never know, then that in and of itself is going to be freaking insanity considering what Venom could do, and Carnage is more powerful by comparison. Oh lord. All I can just say is they got a lot of pieces here on the board. I have high hopes. I hope they do it right. I hope they got the time, because if they do, we're all going to be seeing one hell of a fucking finale to this whole part of the Insomniac versus Spider-Man. It's going to be probably pretty fucking insane.
All right. It's a bit to say about this, but once again, I'm gonna try to keep it short as possible. So they said they want this to be they compared it to Avengers Endgame. So I assume it's gonna be a Spider-Man Endgame. Lots of high stakes involved, especially since now they know who he is. At this point, you can pretty much say the secret's out. The Octavius is gonna tell them, and it's going to be a Far From Home, No Way Home situation where everyone knows who Spider-Man is, and that is going to have a lot of interesting consequences and a lot of ramifications to it. I'm looking forward to it, honestly. We all know that, well, Norman and Otto is like very dangerous for Spider-Man, as well as the fact that they're getting the G serum for Norman Osborn, and we know what that means. That means Green Goblin time. So they're saving Spidey's most menacing villain for this game, who will take out girlfriends, who will take out other people in his life. Somebody's gonna die in this game for real this time. Like that's another thing too to me. Like nobody really passed away that was like a hero in Spider-Man. Sorry, that was my Spider-Man controller going off. But no one really passed away in this game in terms of heroes. Now it's like we're gonna have heroes start to pass away, or important characters or side characters, because of this whole, well, Green Goblin knows now. It's gonna be very, very bad. While villains died to Craven, I think we're gonna probably see more of that too in this game as well. There's gonna be a lot of casualty along the way. As for Silk, I think what they're gonna do is and this is my pipe dream, and I think it might come true. They might do 3 playable characters. It's the only way, right? You got Silk, you got Miles, you got Peter. Let's up the ante with another spider person, and let's complete the set with like 3 characters you can switch between, which would be fucking insane. That would definitely add a lot to the gameplay. 3 skill trees, insanity. Carnage being on the loose does not surprise me after seeing it in this game, but it's hard to wager if he's going to be in that standalone content they want to do with Venom, or if he's going to be in Spider-Man 3. I think the best solution is to do both. Have him in the content with Venom. Venom loses, carries on into Spider-Man, and then all of them defeat Carnage in that game. That means that you had time to build him up. You had time to make him an opposing force, and then when it comes to Spider-Man 3, all out war, and then Carnage gets beaten. I think that's the best way to do it. As for Peter taking a hiatus, well, like I said before, some people don't know the difference between retirement and break. Miles told him the city's it's for 2 Spider-Men. We have to protect all of it. I don't think I can do it by myself. Just go ahead and put the baby in the oven, and everything will be fine. So I think I think that's what's going to happen with that whole situation. And then Mayday Parker's born down the line. Are they going to kill people? Are they going to kill like Peter and everything? I have no idea. I think it's possible. I mean, Norman has killed Peter before, you know, Peter has gotten into, I think Octavius got into his mind and he died when they did the storyline before. So is it possible? Yes, but I don't think it's going to happen like early. I think it's going to happen like at the end of the game if they do something like that. So it's possible, but I guess we'll see. And that's sort of my opinion on that. So I'm going to let Suge go next.
Oh, I think you are right. Somebody needs to fucking die. I think having somebody actually of actual importance not die besides some villains kind of just I don't know, just felt kind of weird not having some person actually die somewhere. You know, last game we had Aunt May kind of deal, and Miles' dad. So I think the way they set up this next game, I have no clue. I have nothing basically. I mean, unless they just off Peter like in the first 5 minutes of the game, full blown, you know, like how they did Spider-Verse movie or fucking you know, they go full Last of Us on our asses. Who knows? You don't really know or what to expect at this point unless they do that Venom game and they kind of just like you know, I'm sure the Venom game will probably have something with Carnage. I think it needs to happen in some way. I don't think that needs to be like not happen in a game, especially that one. But I just don't know. I'm in a blank. I think somebody needs to die for sure. 100% somebody needs to fucking die, and it has to be Peter. I think it, in some way it has to be either Peter or MJ. One of these characters needs some kind of development in terms of a person of great importance to them die, and it has to affect them very deeply. And I think either Peter dying for Miles or MJ dying for Peter. I think that's probably like the only way of advancing a story in terms of, you know, ending it, I guess, in terms of that stuff. So who knows? Maybe they'll do a fourth game after that, and you know they'll kill somebody else. But yeah, I just have no clue. I honestly I have a blank slate when it comes to that. But I'm excited for that spin-off that they make. So maybe that spin-off will give some light to what they plan to do with 3 in some way.
Brian, what about you? How do you feel about what they're setting up for Spider-Man 3?
If this is their equivalent to Endgame, then yeah, not only is somebody dying, but whoever the big villain is for this game, they got to go out in just as big a way too. You know, because we already see how Norman's getting ready to gear up to become the Goblin. So if it winds up being him, that means you better be prepared to send this man to meet the Lord, because him as the Goblin, nah, don't let that man live. And then there's also the fact that if a good guy does die, I feel like no matter who it is, it's just gonna catch us all by surprise, because we don't know who it could be. We don't know if it's. We don't even know about the fact that, you know, that it'll be something where they can at least go peaceably, because somebody like the Goblin, he's not just gonna kill you and go on. He's gonna make sure that whoever he kills, if he knows who you are, not only do you die, he's gonna make sure the people closest to you feel the pain of that death, because that man don't mess around. I think ending wise, you know, it begs the question, because I know Suge was saying, you know, the Last of Us treatment. Honestly, I hope they don't do that for obvious reasons.
Nah, Pete's not gonna die in the beginning of the game. Like in that death, like I said, I really have that much of a problem with it, but Pete is fighting Green Goblin and Otto, and in comics, they both clapped him sometimes. So I think it is going to happen, and that's one of the big things about it, considering what they're setting up. But I don't know. I think one thing to pay attention to is the fact that, and it's a big part of it as well, when they kill someone important to Peter, I think is going to bring back Rage Spider-Man yet again, the same type of Spider-Man that we saw in No Way Home, where when Aunt May died, that man was angry as fuck. He was ready to kill and take Goblin with him if that's the case. And honestly, that's going to be very interesting to see, since we already saw Yuri like super mad as the symbiote. So imagine that, but 10 times worse.
Yep. And honestly, the other thing too is this: given what Otto knows and what Norman's going to potentially know, what would be interesting to see would be how Peter decides to handle his former boss and mentor because of that knowledge. Because let's be real, sometimes for characters who know who Peter is, on the one hand, they're very graceful about what they know and how they handle it. But then there's times where they're gonna make sure that man suffers. But it's like, if you've been taking your time Tweedledee and Tweedledumming when you're playing around with Spider-Man, imagine what would happen if Spider-Man decides not to hold back on you. So it would be interesting to see what can happen. And I think it's something that when it does happen, like I said, I think we'll all generally be taken by surprise, because we're not going to see it. We're not going to expect it one way or the other.
I want it. I want him to not pull his punches no more. That'd be pretty cool to see, actually. Kaneki, what do you think about this?
About what's the question?
So we're talking about all the stuff they set up for the sequel for Spider-Man 3, where it's like they're gonna have Silk, they're gonna have Carnage, Norman and Doc Ock are gonna be teaming up, and now it's gonna be Green Goblin, which is, you know, I said if Gwen Stacy is in this game, expect her to be good as dead if they introduce her, because that's who Green Goblin killed. So yeah.
Jesus. Well, there goes my Gwen Stacy theories. But yeah. No, well, the only thing I would want as like a build-up potential for Spider-Man 3 for a plot twist. You know in in some comic book stories of Spider-Man where Otto takes over Peter Parker's brain
Yes.
and all that.
Yeah, I think that's Superior Spider-Man.
It is.
Yeah, I kind of want that to see if they'll play that route for Spider-Man 3 as like a plot twist ending to the game.
That'd be interesting if they did that. And it'd be crazy because it's like at that point you just wonder what's gonna happen or what he's gonna do. And when Peter was taking over, Doc Ock was doing like all types of shit. So that could be cool. Yep. I wouldn't mind that. But it seems like they're setting up like a lot of big shit.
Yeah.
Do you have any other answers to this question?
I hope Carnage has wings.
Oh my god.
let any symbiote related characters have wings. So to make the boss fights cooler.
Does Red Bull give them wings? Alright, we're moving on to the final question. How would you rank this game versus Spider-Man 1? And what was your favorite boss fight? Justin, you go first.
I think it holds up like comparably to the first game. I'll be straight. I feel like it really does. I mean, I will say, like, was it about just as long, like in terms of length? I haven't played the first one in a while. Was it?
Both of them are the same length. They're like 15 to 20 hours.
Okay, just being sure. Well, they just both felt like they progressed very differently in those 15 to 20 hours. Not to mention like $10 more in terms of price tag. But thankfully, this is one of those few games where I will say it at least justifies the fucking price tag compared to most other shit nowadays that just tries to charge you $70 for overpriced DLC. I mean, what? Sorry, had to get that jab out there. I'm sorry, because it's already December, and it's just like, just I feel like I just had to. Because at least when Insomniac charges you $70, they give you a full fucking game, and they've already done so like twice.
Are we talking about the jab at COD?
Oh yes.
Oh, okay, I knew that was coming.
Jesus.
Fucking $70 DLC. Get the fuck out of here with that shit.
Oh man,
Which card was this again?
Modern
The
Warfare
recent
3.
one.
Yep.
Oh,
It's just a DLC pack they're charging you $70 fucking for.
By the way, people would gladly pay for it as DLC, but no, it's a full game.
I mean, they got that kind of money, more power to them, but still.
At least this 15-20 hours was a very fun 15-20 hours. I played this game for a couple hours every freaking day because I didn't want to lose out on all the story spoilers, all the the new stuff.
Right.
Because I've been looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to this game for years, and I'm glad to see that it held up so freaking well. It really did. Even went out of my way, much like the first game, to get the platinum. And anyone who knows me knows I'm not very much an achievement hunter. I'm not a very platinum-ish guy because sometimes I just want to get a move on. I really do. But when I really want to go for a platinum, I'll go for a fucking platinum. I will waste ages of my time freaking getting that damn thing until I see that bing right over there, and it's just like, oh, I have nothing left to prove. Now, where's my new game plus? Insomnia, get to work on it. Seriously, where the fuck is it?
Where's
And-
my replay mission?
Yeah, where is base replay too? Because sometimes I want to go into the Craven hunts and the symbiote like towers and just fight stuff.
Oh, that's
Yes.
a good point too. Yeah, where's that? Where's my new game plus? And also, this game had 100% less screwball, so that already is a huge freaking
Oh, thank God.
plus in my book.
Oh, I forgot to bring that up. That's the only plus.
I
That's
will,
one
say
of the
that,
only
I will
pluses.
also say that 100% less screwball. Insomniac, y'all really do listen. Thank God, because no one liked that bitch.
Or
Taskmaster was a lot better.
maybe they knew, because if Peter had the symbiote and Screwball was around, he'd just kill her.
Oh, come on, 11 out of 10. I'll buy a second copy right now. Hell yeah.
Everybody will gladly see Peter punch Screwball in the was it in the crotch?
Yeah, or in the
On the
stomach, I
stomach?
forgot.
Yeah.
But yeah, he would just kill her. Please don't put her in the next game, for the love of God.
Please don't bring back Taskmaster.
Whatever void that bitch is in, I hope she stays in there with X Death.
And watch she be the next Spider-Man from the.
Please,
Bruh.
Do not
that
joke
was
about
so
that.
stupid. No, that was real. She was in the Spidey suit. I'm like, oh no.
So that bitch's mouth shut, please, for the love of God. So that bitch's mouth shut. Oh my God, get her the fuck out of here. As for a favorite boss, I'm honestly going to say, like, the fight against Peter, like sort of like what was like the late middle of the game, like regardless. That fight not only had built up across a whole bunch of the story, and like it had a perfect setup even like about like 5 minutes prior, but it had everything. It even had the emotional build up and everything. You just seamlessly switch over to Miles. You see Peter's name in all caps with a big ass freaking health bar, a health bar that bigger than we freaking get. So that motherfucker put in a game genie inside of his goddamn Spidey suit somewhere in his ass, probably, and it happened to freaking activate. But it was despite the fact that he had a fucking symbiote, it was like a still one-on-one freaking Spider-Man versus Spider-Man fisticuffs beat down brawlicus with freaking church bells. Which sometimes all you need is just like a simple one-on-one battle, like no crazy mechanics, no glowing orange circles or cones or other things like that. You just need a straight up one-on-one fisticuffs. So I know this game has several levels already, but with all the build-up that it had with Peter in the symbiote suit, Miles just like seeing what it's doing to his friend, and he's trying to get him to snap the ever-living fuck out of it. Oh, thematically, it was so fucking good. And I don't remember much about the music, but I remember it just sounding like your typical RPG best friend versus best friend battle theme. And quite frankly, I love it when games do that correctly. I really did enjoy that fight a lot, just on both story perspective and a gameplay perspective. By the time I was done with that, I'm just like, y'all, there's a reason this game is at least a nominee for GOTY. Like, y'all. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, it's 2 a.m. I'm done for the night. That was some good fucking shit. All right, where's my freaking bubbly?
A little bit of the bubbly.
A little bit of the bubbly.
On my side, a little bit of red wine
All right, Brian.
for the tide. All right.
I'm gonna keep my answer short. I think this game, I have to think about it after some time. Like, how does this game stack up to the first one? And honestly, in a lot of areas, it really excels. Whether it's the characters, whether it's the gameplay, all the new additions they added for better. It's just, you know what? I would go with what the critics have said with their score. I would say this game's like a 9 out of 10. I think on most levels, it really exceeds. It's kind of long too, so you got your 15-hour game with tons of side content and tons of things to do in the open world. It's a bigger map. It's just a more bigger and more badass sequel with a few gripes. It's a couple of things I don't like, but overall, I would say my score is like definitely 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed this experience like a whole lot. And going back to the first game, I think the first game is still solid for what it is. But this one, in terms of like getting around the city and everything, it has like much more going on with the mechanics. So in terms of going back, would I go back to the first one? Yeah, but going forward with the sequel, I would say it's so good that it's like just everything you wanted and more from what a Spider-Man sequel should be from Insomniac, which is a lot more under the hood with what you could do, see, and explore. In terms of favorite bosses, I'm just gonna keep it basic, bitch, and say Miles versus Peter. Like, it was great. Like, the emotional investment, the fact that he doesn't want to do this, and he's saying like he's conflicted, but at the same time the symbiote's like, no, we ain't having that. We want you to kill everybody, and that's it. And Miles is like, you didn't call me, man. What's going on with this? Showing that his friendship was in decay with Miles. Because he wanted to help Harry and because the symbiote is making him more of a cop. I would say that was great. Just everything in the fight was awesome. Like, you're feeling the same emotions that Miles did. And it's quite the turn, because I don't think that, correct me if wrong, but I think this is the only Spider-Man game we've played that had a boss fight with Peter. I can't remember one of recent memory that had a boss fight with him, unless it must have been one of the Beanox games where you're fighting like another variation. But in terms of this, it's very spot on, fantastic, and I think it worked for what it was. Shook, you can go next. What is your comparison of this game versus the original Spider-Man for PS4?
I don't know. Like, I think they were pretty on par with each other on how good they pretty much were in terms of story. If we're talking about like technical improvements in terms of the abilities and the combat and the swinging and the suits and all that kind of stuff, I think Spider-Man 2 takes the cake. But I think overall both games are pretty tied in my kind of view. I would probably maybe put Spider-Man 2 just slightly above, mainly because of the boss battles. I think the boss battles were probably a lot better, and I think more memorable. I really don't remember any other ones from the first game, besides like Kingpin and fucking whatever his name is with the metal forehead, and and yeah, like I think Spider-Man 2 is just like slightly above it, mainly because it was a bit more memorable in terms of like boss fights. Because, this game had me fearing for my life whenever Kraven was on screen. And I was like, I'm not even there and I fear for my life. I want to run away kind of deal. And it's like, I don't want to deal with Kraven in any way, especially after how he, how wrong he did Scorpion. But yeah, like, I think, man, like, the boss fight with Peter was pretty good. What I think what was more interesting is the fact that you go off from that fight with Kraven and back to back with Peter. kind of deal. So like, you're first off getting rid of Craven, and then it's out of nowhere you had to deal with fucking Miles too. And it's like, at first I had no idea what the hell I was trying to do, because you have to use the bell that Craven was using with you earlier in the earlier fight. And you're like, how the hell am I supposed to deal with Peter? And then you see the bell and you're like, that's right, I need to ring the motherfucker. So I think just overall, in terms of like, it was more memorable than the first game in terms of like boss battles. I think the boss battles were like the biggest part of this game, especially with the fact that it opened with Sandman.
All right, so Brian, it is your turn. What do you think of the overall ranking of this game versus Spider-Man 1?
Spider-Man 1, I gave it like a 8, solid 8. Spider-Man 2, I give it a full-on 9. Story was great. Characterization was great. Gameplay, much better. Miles and Peter definitely had their own things that made them fairly unique from each other. And I think it was good to see that, because I know everybody talks about how, with Miles, he's pretty much just another Peter, but with everything we've been getting from Miles between this game and Spider-Verse, it's nice to see him come into his own, where he's not just, a clone of Peter, but he's his own person. Can't wait to see what they do with the third game. So yeah, solid 9 out of 10.
You got any favorite boss fights?
I did like the one with Peter. I pretty much enjoyed the game overall. If ever there was a favorite boss fight, like if I had to go with an absolute favorite besides the one with Peter, it's hard to say, because even with all the bosses put together, it's like it's hard to really pick one for me, because I just like the game overall.
That's fair enough. Kaneki, what about you? Thoughts on this final question?
I would give it an 8.5 compared to the original Spider-Man for PS4, which I would give it an 8. They equally have great stories and general characterizations. The only reason I would give it a 0.5 is because, as many people here said, better combat for the most part, and better remembered boss battles. Outside of the Peters versus Miles boss fight, my personal favorite boss fights actually, and I think you would like this too, Ren. Venom versus, Craven. When you finally play as Venom and you fight.
Dude, that
Craven,
part was
that's
cool. That part, even though it was a wash,
Yeah.
I was washing him. That was a cool moment, honestly.
And then you finally managed to eat his head off as Venom. That was beautiful.
That was fucking sick. I was like, holy shit, we got like full on blood in a Spider-Man game, people. That is insane.
That is justifiable for them to do a spin-off game for Venom. I needs it.
Just make it him, and I'm in there. You don't even have to ask me twice. That is money being paid for that.
Day one pre-order.
I just want to give like one last shout out to the guy who played Craven. His voice actor was also it's just chef's kiss. It's fucking awesome, man. It's so cool. Especially when he says like, if I die, I'm going to die roaring. I'm like, oh shit. It's like, that was the best part about the Venom fight, in my opinion.
With the growl.
Yep. I was like, oh man, it's beautiful. This game does, when it does stuff right, it really does get stuff right in this game, and I can't wait until the third one. So that is this podcast done. I'm going to link the first one we did and Miles Morales in the description below, so you people on YouTube can see what exactly is going on. We're gonna do outros here. We will start with Justin. Where can we find you?
On Twitter, not X. Twitter.
Splatter.
I'm still gonna emphasize that because Elon's naming conventions, as we all know, are so just totally shit.
It's ass.
Find me there at Inferno Dragon 3D, and on Twitch and YouTube at Inferno Dragon 343.
Well, you can find me on Twitter, X videos, whatever you want to call it, at Ren Operative underscore. You can find me on YouTube at Renegade Operative. You can find me on Twitch at Renegade underscore Operative. So I've been like doing some of the final moments of Spider-Man 2 and also like cleaning up some side missions because I have not done all of them just yet. I've been fighting the cultists and clearing out the hives in order to get my platinum. So follow me over there to talk about some shenanigans and Spider-Man 2. Shug, where can we find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter or X or Pornhub, whatever you want to call it, at Sugar Bastion. Same with YouTube, Sugar Bastion, and Twitch, same name, pretty much anywhere. And yeah, pretty much it.
Brian, where can we find you?
You can't unless you go on YouTube for Silver Angel, where you will see me masochistically run through souls like bosses. Something that started midway through this year. I'm gonna try and get back on it when I can. Liza P. It loves to torture me, and I love it back. Anyway, hope y'all have fun with this one.
And Kaneki, where can we find you, buddy?
You can find me on YouTube and Twitter. Not calling it X, Twitter, under the same name as Ghoul World Order. And right now, I'm just collecting tech parts in Spider-Man 2, which is probably the only thing I can do since I did everything in the game, including piloting it.
There's so many of those crates.
Yeah. But they are essential for upgrading your characters. Well,
Which I already did.
yo. So we will see you guys for the next one. Whenever we know Wolverine is full stop next, and the second that comes out, that's going to be talked about. Most definitely for comic stuff in the future. So Insomniac is feeding well. Look forward to that, and we will see you guys next time out there. Later.
Bye.